Hi people, it's Chilli here from Live Listen and Race, and on this 5-minute review episode, I get to review the latest album by the metal community's biggest underdogs, a band called Anvil. But before we do, a quick history lesson. So, who are Anvil? Well, they have a movie out addressing this issue that's worth watching, and it'll go over the history of the band in thorough detail. Anvil is a Canadian thrash metal band and is pretty much the personification of being America's little thrash brother. Often overlooked, and many more times a misstep in their careers anyway would cause the band to take 2 steps back while 1 step forward. Anyway, the current lineup is Steve Lips Kudlow, Rob Reiner, and Chris Robertson. So, let's get into the album.
Great rock and roll band, Anvil!
Take a Lesson is the first track and has an opening speech taken from Dave Grohl before getting into the music. This album's intro is a perfect starting track, really. It's a simple yet solid slug of a song in a 4/4 rhythm, and it's just no nonsense. Decent opener. Go Shadow is up next and certainly starts off more heavier and thrashier than the previous track. A better follow-up track really to the last one to get the blood flowing. It has a solid riff and a great tone throughout the track, but it doesn't quite move up to a great status. Gunfight is next and starts off with an interesting dirty blues riff, almost. It has a pretty solid solo on this track as well, with the band doing well to unify and come up with this nice track. Fire Rain is up next and is one hot track. It's a short piece that is down to basics rock and roll. There is no mucking around here, as the song goes balls to the wall and feels like a classic Judas Priest track in a sense. This is one of their best tracks on the album. Teabag follows on and straight up sounds like a Van Halen song. Very impressive bass work and drumming. Tight rhythm section kept in check with the guitar work. Hammer on those notes, keep at it. This track is a great song to continue on from the previous one. Don't Look Back is next up, and it's a basic rock song. Nothing too special, nothing really memorable either. Someone to Hate is the following track, and I wonder who this was meant for. There is some rather impressive shred in here with great solos, and I'm very impressed by this track. Bad Side of Town is up next and is one fast and ferocious song. This is a song that wants to go full send, and it does. A solid song. Wizard's Wand is a follow-up song, and it is another dirty bluesy kind of track, reminiscent of some slower Motorhead songs in tone. Yeah, it's not bad. Lockdown is next, and this track's riff is as equally blunt as the title's track, but it comes in swinging like Thor's hammer in the distance as it crashes through shit. Obviously, this song isn't as glorious as Mjolnir, but it is your typical track about COVID, written during the lockdown. I've heard it a billion times before. Not a new subject. Next. Explosive Energy is the following track, and it kind of lives up to its namesake. I mean, it's explosive in sound, but it doesn't give me the energy. The Rabbit Hole is the next song, and it's an interesting song. It talks about an odd subject with the tribulations of conspiracies, and is lyrically one of their finest tracks on this album. I'll sing its praises here. Shockwave is next, and is a song that drags along like old Knoxville's fake sack in his skit dressed up as Bad Grandpa. Whole lot of meh. Gomez is the last track, and talk about saving the best for last. This is an energetic jam track that is fantastic and worthy of being the album closer. It's a great tune. Oh Anvil, you are the biggest underdogs of the metal community for sure. I would like to see the band succeed, honestly, but I feel like that might be due to the film that I've watched. You see, the movie gives that underdog vibe, and everyone wants to root for the underdog. Is Anvil famous for being the underdog, or is Anvil famous for their music? And that's the question that I wrestled while listening to this album. To be honest, I couldn't distinguish still whether they were just the underdogs or their music was really worthy to listen to. At the end of the day though, this album is not going to be their breakthrough album either. Sorry to say. It's not a bad album, but it's just rather generic and it plays it fairly safe. A lot of topics are covered here, but nothing really pushes the boundaries as far as the lyrics go. The other problem is they seem to have an identity crisis with their sound. They toe between sounding like Akadaka and Motorhead, even getting some thrashier sounds like Testament or Judas Priest. All bands that I like, Each of those bands have their own sound, as opposed to Anvil, who are really just copying and taking little pieces of each to form theirs. And I get that each of these bands are going to pay tribute to their original influences through their music, but Anvil doesn't really feel like they're doing that. It feels like they're just taking what is and copying and pasting it and putting it out there. And this is what sets apart the other bands compared to Anvil. Anvil had a fantastic marketing strategy when they had their movie released a couple of years ago, and I think it really bolstered the numbers of their fans. It did well for the band, and it would hopefully launch them a bit more into the stardom. And a few other bands surely do like to sing their praises. Dave Grohl, of course, as I mentioned before. But at the end of the day, this is just not going to win me over. Overall, I give this album 700,000 chilies on the spicy scale, with standout tracks being Someone to Hate, A Bad Side of Town, and Gomez. The issues in my mind regarding to this album are the 14 tracks running at close to 50-ish minutes, and they could have cut probably 2 or 3 songs out of this album to make it more streamlined. Also on top of that was that kind of copy-paste from all the other artists. Who knows, maybe Anvil will release another album in the future and it might change my mind, but this one definitely hasn't. Let me know below, maybe I'm missing out and there's something I really should listen to by Anvil. Comment below if you think that I have another song I should really do a reaction to. As I said before, I've watched the film, but that was years ago. So, you stay spicy out there. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Live Listen Erased. And if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with all your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our Chilli Con Carnage Crew so you can get notified for all the future videos that we put out, as we put out videos every Friday. Also, we are on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over at Live Listen Erased, so make sure to tune in over there. And don't forget to like this video so that our manager can stay very happy.